Speaking of nothing like it, I've never seen a guy run quite as fast as Lee Evans, our special guest now joining us on the Cadillac Countdown to Super Bowl, the Buffalo Bills' outstanding wide receiver. In now for us, Charlie Casserly along the way as well from the NFL's coverage of the NFL today. And Charlie, of course, a longtime general manager of the National Football League. Charlie, welcome back, and I know you've been working after it, so we're going to give you a little reprieve, but we'll wear you out before the evening's over with.
Great to be here.
Let's bring in Lee, first of all, and talk about the matchups. Lee, welcome, and when you look at the speed down on the field on both sides of the field, it is quite a lot to choose if you are Peyton Manning. Couple of speed merchants if Mark Bradley shows up for Chicago, but Berrien, as you mentioned, Charlie, yesterday, is their speed guy. Talk about the matchups in the speed position at wideout.
Well, I think you touched it right on the head. Both teams have explosive players on each side of the ball, so it'll be, both defenses do a good job of not giving up big plays, and I think the team that can execute the best to get the most big plays, the most explosive plays in this game will probably have the best chance of winning.
Now let's take them down in descending order, and Charlie, chime in here anytime you choose to. Marvin Harrison, we know about him during the regular season, but for whatever reason in postseason play, teams make the conscious choice, guys, to shut him down. He has yet to eclipse 60 yards in the postseason affair. If you're him, how frustrating can it be as a wide receiver when you can't break out like that?
Well, it can be frustrating, but I think what takes away from the frustration is winning. And that's one of the things that they have been doing is winning. And he's been very efficient. I mean, he's done some things on third down, gotten first downs, done some of the little things. And I think it's only a matter of time before, he's able to put it back to back to back. And, the yards add up and you get the statistical day that people are looking for.
Charlie, your experience as a general manager, you've been part of 4 Super Bowl appearances, and you can see that frustration build up in players who don't get an opportunity to do what they do best in the regular season. What advice would you give them from a managerial standpoint to handle their situations?
Well, I think Lee's answer was great. If you've got a veteran player that's been in the league a long time, what do they talk about? The older you get, all you talk about is the ring. You don't talk about the money. You talk about the ring. Hey, Marvin Harrison has got to be thinking about that now. This is my best shot ever of getting that ring. So he'll overcome his frustration. I'll tell you an interesting story now. At the end of the Patriot game, when they're driving down there, he's in the huddle telling Peyton Manning, run the ball. Peyton, run the ball. Guess what? They ran the ball, won the game. Now he's got a chance for that ring.
That's a great take. And Lee, you've got a unique perspective because you've faced both of these ball clubs. And what do you see? Contrast the cover units of each one. What do you think can be exploited on either one?
Well, one of the things that Indianapolis doesn't do, and they really haven't done this year, is blitz a whole lot. They did it a little bit last week in the New England game, but they really don't blitz. They just play a coverage scheme, and they rely on their front four to get pressure, much like Chicago. The two defenses are very, very similar. They play their structure. The linebackers are very fast, can move all over the place. So, I think Marvin will be able to have an effective day over the middle, some of the crossing routes, getting in between zones, things like that, and just being effective just like he's done.
What about Reggie Wayne? Over 1,300 yards during the regular season for him. What role do you see him playing?
Well, I think he'll have a big role as well, because sometimes when they go to one high, it'll certainly give him an opportunity. But they don't really give up big plays. So it'll be interesting to see if one of the receivers on either side can break free and get a big play.
Well, let's flip the coin, speaking of either sides, and go to Chicago. Muhammad, let's begin with him. He's more of a possession guy at 33 years of age, guys. What will his role be in this contest? Because I see, look, he may not necessarily hit the big play frequent and often, but when they do hit it, I believe they've got to make big on it.
Yeah, certainly. Effectiveness. I think he'll just be effective. He'll control everything from 10 yards under, hitting slant routes, just under routes like that, sitting over the ball, things like that. He'll control a lot, and I think he's been very, very effective doing that, being so big, using his body. And I wouldn't be surprised if they took a shot with him down the field. Indianapolis has some undersized corners. Take a shot with him and see what happens.
Speaking of those undersized corners, we're going to come back to you, Charlie, and talk about Berrien. Again, you witnessed his speed and explosiveness the other day. I talked to Mark Bradley the other day, and he feels like he's healthy enough to come back as well. And his dad and I played at University of Oklahoma. He was a quarterback there many years ago, and I got the sense that he feels that he's going to be a part of this game. Don't know if it's going to happen, but that's a little birdie told me that, so we'll see how that plays out. But back to Berrien. What else can you tell us about him and what role you think he'll play in the Super Bowl 41?
Well, when you play the Chicago Bears, what people tell you is that they're going to take their shots deep. Mostly it's with Berrien right now because Bradley's been injured. So the Colts are aware of that. The Colts know that. The Colts just can't be lulled into sleep when they take their shots. So and it can happen right off the bat. It can happen play action early. It can happen during the game. I think in this game, though, when they take them deep to Berrien, take the shots deep to Berrien, he's got to make the plays, and Grossman's got to put the ball there because they're not going to have a lot of opportunities to score points, I don't think.
All right, guys, let's go outside of my immediate expertise. I mean, I say that because as an old running back, I have a preference in terms of how I like to see a game play out. But these particular running backs in this ball game, to me, seem to do well in situations where they can get a rhythm and control. Talking more about Chicago right now. What must Indianapolis do, Lee, to control them at the line of scrimmage and not allow them to get into a rhythm in their running back tandem?
Well, I think up front. I think the game will really be won up front. If they can put Rex Grossman into a game where he has to throw the ball a lot, I think it plays in favor of Indianapolis a little bit more. So it'll be interesting to see if they can get their running game going. Then that's when Chicago is a lot more effective. That's when they really are able to hit those shots, when they got both running backs hitting holes and going inside, outside. That's when they really have a lot of options offensively.
All right, Charlie, you've been around, seen quite a bit, particularly here during this week of Super Bowl build-up. What other nuggets have you learned that the average watcher out here may not be privy to that you can share with us?
Well, I think when you're talking about special teams here, you got Devin Hester. Now, Devin Hester is an explosive guy, so I think you have a couple things going there. Number one, how nervous is he going to be in his first Super Bowl? He's put the ball on the ground. Is he going to put the ball on the ground, or is he going to take it to the house? Now, Indy, their only chance, because they're not real good on special teams, is they got a position punt it over in the corner so that they use the sideline as one defender and the rest of the team as the other defender. Obviously, Chicago knows that, so Chicago's got to find a way to disrupt that. Are they going to pressure? Are they going to go after? Are they going to try to block the punt, get the punter off rhythm? So those are a couple things to look for on special teams.
All right, guys, I'm going to ask you one question before we get out of here and go to a little sound-off segment. Give us a sense of what it must be like, and I know this may be an unfair question for you, Lee, but what in the biggest game, the biggest context you ever played in, compounded by 20 for the Super Bowl, what can you imagine is going through the minds and the hearts of these players?
Right now, it's just the anticipation. A lot of times just the build, there's so much build up, so much hype. It's just the anticipation of getting to the game. A lot of nervous energy, just thinking about what could happen, going through different scenarios in your mind. That all plays into yourself. And I think once you get into the game, all those nerves and nervous energy calm down a little bit.
Charlie, this has been one of the most nondescript weeks leading up to the Super Bowl that we've ever had. We've not had a lot to talk about, at least juicy nuggets. How do you figure that will be consistent with what we actually see come game time tomorrow?
Well, I think that I don't know that there is any consistency. I think if you would say this, talking about consistency from the season tomorrow, you don't see it. Neither of these teams do a lot of fancy things. You don't see fake punts. You don't see fake field goals. You don't see onside kicks. You don't see flea flickers. And so those are things you don't generally see out of these teams. And so I guess when you talk about a bland week, maybe from that point of view, it'll be a bland game. It'll just be executing your offense and defense.
Fair enough, and thanks a lot, guys.